Hello and welcome to another edition of Uno Plays. Today I'm going to be visiting Kasumi Ninja on the Atari Jaguar. Now, if you've been paying attention at all to Jaguar stuff, or if you were around playing games in the 90s like I was, you might know this one already. It's pretty notorious. It's, I think, in a lot of people's opinion, among the worst fighting games ever made. And I think it mostly deserves that reputation. I'm playing this on actual Jaguar hardware with a cart and everything. I've been kind of reacquiring Jaguar stuff that I used to have as a kid, and I was able to get a copy of this in the box and everything for under 20 bucks, so I just thought, okay, for that I'll revisit this just because it was it's such a known car wreck of a game, I guess, that maybe it would be worth it just to kind of revisit it and see if there's anything that I do like about it, or am a little nostalgic for, or if it's just all kind of as bad as I remember it being when I was a teenager. So, here we are. I think it's important to note what the fighting game scene was like at the time when this was out. If you weren't around, Mortal Kombat was the thing, right? Like, Street Fighter was definitely huge, and it was those two games, really. Everybody else wanted to be Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat. And this was one of those games that wanted to be Mortal Kombat. And the Jaguar didn't really have fighting games. It had, I think, ultimately, after the thing was said and done, there was this game, Kasumi Ninja, there was Ultra Vortek, and then there was the 3D fighter, Fight for Life. But I don't think Fight for Life ever even made it out while the console was relevant. I seem to remember that one coming out like afterward. But I don't know. Maybe my memory's off on that one. Oh, and Primal Rage. But Primal Rage was just for Jaguar CD, which that's another thing entirely. But I was hugely disappointed that Primal Rage never came out to the Jaguar. This was really the game that I was playing because I couldn't get Primal Rage, which was in arcades when this was out, and I couldn't get Mortal Kombat on the Jaguar, and I only had the one system, so... And I was a huge fan of Mortal Kombat, too. Giant fan. I had it on the Super Nintendo, then we... I'm sorry, I had a Super Nintendo. I didn't have Mortal Kombat because we sold my Super Nintendo to get the Genesis, because the Genesis version had all the blood and fatalities and stuff, right? So then I got the Sega CD, and I got Mortal Kombat CD, which was, even with its little loading hiccups here and there, was still an awesome game, and I loved that. And so we ended up selling the Sega CD to get the Jaguar, I think because we had seen footage of Doom and Alien vs. Predator and stuff, and that just seemed like the next jump, so we moved to the Jaguar. But I lost all my fighting games, right? I didn't have Mortal Kombat anymore. I didn't have access to Street Fighter on Genesis or anything like that, right? So I was dying for something to play at home, because occasionally getting to play Primal Rage at the arcades wasn't cutting it. So Kasumi Ninja was what you had, I guess, to kind of round out the backstory here as to where I was at when this came out. So, anyway, I get Kasumi Ninja. I'm excited. It's a digitized fighter. Looks really cool, right? And it was just such a huge letdown. The cast is really boring and forgettable, and we'll get into that shortly. The music is awful. It's beyond awful. We'll get into that shortly. And the biggest offense, I think, is the controls. The controls are super unreliable. They don't register sometimes at all. And I know it's not an issue with my controller because I've played Brutal Sports Football with the same pad. Didn't have any problems with that. You know, Wolfenstein, Doom, those games, no problems with the controls there. So it's definitely an issue with this game itself. But anyway, how about we get into it here? So right away you notice the blood dripping from the top. A game that tries really, really hard to capitalize on the whole blood and gore thing. I think I've got all my options how I need it. Yeah, difficulty. We want to keep difficulty on normal because if you go to easy, once you get to the last boss, the game says, sorry, too bad, so sad, turn it up to normal, and then you can fight the last boss. And then you're back to square one, which is really frustrating. Gorefest is the only setting with fatalities, so we'll leave that on. And And without further ado, let's get into it here.
Select your fighter.
Alright, so, right off the bat, what is this? This is a first-person perspective, and you can actually move around in this space. And it goes about, like, what is that? Is that sub 10 frames per second? It's pretty bad. You've only got 2 characters to choose from here. There's Ninja, or... who's this guy? Oh, that's Ninja 2. Oh, so it's just Ninja and Ninja. To be fair, they're twins. There's Habaki, and then Senzo, his palette swap brother. So right there, that's one thing to notice right off the bat with the game copying Mortal Kombat. And I'm gonna go ahead and pick Senzo here.
Select your opponent.
So now you only get those 2 to start, but then all of a sudden your enemies you can pick from all the rest of the cast. And the dumb thing here is that they don't just open up everybody for you to play as in the beginning. If you want to play as one of these characters, you have to beat them and then come back here and then select them after they've been beaten. And it doesn't save that on the card or anything. It's not like you can do this and then unlock everybody for next time. Like, every time you load the game, even if you've kept the game on and you've completed, you know, the story mode and beat the boss and everything, and you want to play through it again, which why would you? But even if you did, you'd come back and have those same 2 stupid ninjas again, and the rest of the characters would be locked again. So yeah, just totally puzzling design choices here. And I would have much preferred just the traditional select screen too, with the little thumbnails of each character and maybe like a full body in the background, something like that. I don't know why they thought that first person mode was so cool. I feel like if it doesn't run smoothly, it's definitely not worth doing. So I started with this opponent because I think this is about the neatest of the background stages, honestly. The severed heads on the spikes definitely were like the cool, edgy, stupid thing, you know, the mid-90s blood fighter thing. But I kind of appreciate how the foreground has those... The foreground's got those fence posts there along the bridge, and then they're a separate layer from the ones behind it, and then that's another separate layer from the far background. And then actually those trees that you see in the background, they're just kind of floating there. They're supposed to be in water, but they sort of look like they're floating to me. Those are on their own layer too. So that kind of stuff, this is actually... that background stuff is part of what sold me on this game initially, before it came out. I remember being in a game store, and it was just a local mom and pop place. I don't know that we really had like Game Stops every couple of miles like you do. We certainly didn't where I lived at the time. But anyway, they had a VHS tape playing in there featuring like upcoming Jaguar stuff. And Kasumi Ninja was playing on the VHS tape, and I remember the clerk like showing my dad this footage and saying like, oh yeah, see, this has got more background layers than any other fighting game before, and like, see how it's because of the system's powerful enough to do it. You just aren't gonna get this on like Sega CD. And I don't know if he was like a huckster, just like trying to, you know, grift us into buying what would end up being a shitty fighting game when it came out. See, look at that missed uppercut, didn't connect, totally should have. That's like the story of this game here, those missed moves.
Show no mercy.
Oh, it's fatality time. Oh, I couldn't get it off in time, crap. Anyway, yeah, so we actually did think that was kind of impressive, the multiple scrolling background layers, and I remember like putting that one on our radar from then on, being like, oh, okay, so Kasumi Ninja comes out, that's our Mortal Kombat, we have to pick that up. So, anyway, moving on to the second opponent here. Maybe this one I can get the fatality off. Yeah, what a lame move. His move is that he just jumps and it shakes the ground. So dumb. Throw that fireball. I'm amazed blocking even works in this game. There's so many moves that like just whiff, they don't connect because the collision detection is just bad. I don't know if it's like a problem with the hitboxes being all over the place or what. Stupid Pakawa. There we go.
Senzo wins.
1-1 round.
Round 3.
Hey, alright, cut off. Those are really hard. Those are, for being such a key, cool move that's always looked neat, the impact on the uppercuts is poor, and they're very hard to land, I think, anyway. Ah, look at that. I'm just sitting here. I'm trying to get a damn fireball off, and I know I'm getting the motion right. Game's just too unresponsive. And there you go. There's the fatality for Senzo. Squishes your head. Pretty lame. Like, there's just kind of a... it's like a just total lack of impact for a fatality. You know? Like, you just wiped out the character. And it's just very, like... Okay, so I think next I'm going to go fight Danja here. So I can continue to talk a little bit during this fight. This background music on this stage is terrible. Her outfit, by the way, is a crime. And that haircut. Terrible.
Round 1.
Yeah, and those fireballs. Those, I guess they're a bolo. I just remember thinking when I was a kid, when I was playing this, like, oh, those things look like those wrenches that the Koopas throw on the airship in Mario 3. Come on, do this special move. Oh my god. She just warps all over the place. It's so frustrating. This controller D-pad too is just kind of like one of the suckier ones, which just makes it that much harder. And when I say that, I don't mean of my controllers. It's not the suckiest. I mean like of controllers in general. The Jaguar controller D-pad is a pretty bad one.
Round 2.
The problem with this guy too is his stupid hurricane kick. No impact whatsoever. It's just so lame. Like, you can't even feel it connecting, right? Like, it just makes kind of a whiff noise as he lands it, and there's no clear, you know, when Ryu does his hurricane kick, like, there's a definite impact noise there, and you know it's connected. And with this game, it's almost like you can't tell. Like, did that land? So I'm gonna go fight Chagi next, and I want you to listen to the music. I'm gonna not talk for a little bit when the fight starts, because the music is some of the shittiest music I've ever heard in a fighting game. Absolutely terrible.
Round 1.
I mean, what is that? Who decided that that was appropriate fighting game music? It sounds like it was something that could have been done by a hobbyist with like a $30 Casio keyboard. You know, like one of those little things you get in the toy section at the department stores or whatever. It's just awful. Like, meanwhile, keep in mind too, right? Like this came out at a time when you had, I think, Mortal Kombat 3 and Primal Rage in arcades, and just on the home scene, 3DO was out there, and it was, you know, the main competitor for Jaguar, I think, in terms of like, you know, you want to buy a next generation system, it's one of those two, right? And 3DO has Way of the Warrior, and I have to tell you, man, when I played Way of the Warrior for the first time, yeah, the digitized characters and the zoom in, zoom out effect like Samurai Showdown. It had that White Zombie soundtrack. that shit blew me away, right? So I was a Jaguar owner at the time too. And I remember playing Way of the Warrior and then coming home afterward and having this to play because, you know, you want to play Way of the Warrior, but this is what you have at home. And it was just such a poor substitute. I remember actually I had a cassette tape of White Zombie's Le Sexorcisto Devil Music Volume 1. And I played the cassette tape in the background while I would play Kasumi Ninja to just kind of try to emulate the Way of the Warrior experience, you know, and it just wasn't the same. That game, Way of the Warrior, people will dog on that and say that it's as bad as this or that it's the 3DO version of this. Those people are crazy, man. That game had like 10 times the style and charm that this game has. Had that amazing soundtrack. It was just way more creative. It had so many other cool things going for it that this game doesn't have. This game is so just boring. Look at this stupid guy with the kilt. That's his whole thing, is that he's wearing a kilt. So if he launches a fireball, he lifts up his kilt at you. And it's like the guy that everybody fights too in YouTube videos where I've seen where they've loaded up this game. The first guy they fight is Angus. Like, oh, look at him, he launched a fireball out of his kilt. I guess it seemed edgy at the time. In the 90s, it was kind of like, oh, dude. But now it's just kind of like, And this music, I guess this is like the worst music, right? It's so bad.
Show no mercy. Senzo win.
Yeah, just puzzling. Just absolutely puzzling design decisions here with the bagpipes and that other track.
Senzo.
I just don't know who approved that stuff, who thought, you know, because Atari was paying attention to this stuff too when it came out, and I know it's asking a lot for a company that was mismanaging their hardware in the, you know, to begin with, to make sure that the software at least comes out correctly, right? Like it's a lot to ask. But I just remember them kind of talking this one up a lot before it came out. Like this was the answer to Mortal Kombat. And or at least they had me fooled into thinking that when I was a kid, you know, 14 years old, and just dying for this to come out. When I finally got a hold of it, just thinking like, man, this is so not even close to being as cool as those other games. Screw you, Alaric. This guy is always the hardest one. I remember hating him the most when I was a kid, and before I started up the recording here to do this, I warmed up with the game for about 15, maybe 20 minutes just to kind of reacquaint myself with the controls. And I just picked Alaric as my opponent because he was like the first guy that pops up after you pick your ninja. And, oh man, he's just merciless, just like, I couldn't even get away from him. It took me a little bit to figure out that this game is mostly about keeping your distance and using fireballs and stuff, which I'm not going to remember that from 20 years ago, so I'm glad I kind of popped it in for a little bit before doing the video here, because it would have just been a lot of videos of him just closing the distance and me whiffing a lot.
No mercy.
Oh yeah, let's get him. There you go, take that, Alaric. I have a theory about Alaric too. I think when they decided, like, hey, yeah, we're doing casting for the Kasumi Ninja, come down and get your photo taken in these costumes, one of the programmers came and was like, yeah, I'll be a guy. Who can I be? They'd be like, okay, you're going to be the Nordic guy. Yeah, okay, cool. And then after the work was done, he went and programmed his character to be the hardest one to beat. That's my theory. Alright, so everybody's dead now. Now I go fight the boss. Whew, that's a little dizzying. Get through this gate. And here we go. Final boss time. I really don't remember much about this last boss at all. I remember being miffed finding out that I had to go up a difficulty level from easy as a kid. Because because it took a while to figure this out too, man. Like, you didn't have the manual does not give you any help whatsoever. There's no listing of special moves in there, and this is pre-internet, man. Like, I didn't have internet in the house when this game came out, so I didn't know how to look up moves. I had to wait like I don't know, until I could go to the grocery store and get an issue rather, of Tips and Tricks magazine or something where they would have all the moves listed for it. So, you know, initially getting this home and not knowing any of the moves and trying to figure it out and just not having a ton of luck. And then half the time, it doesn't register the moves either. So if you're trying like a specific button combination and it misses, you want to rule it out, but then you have to try it like 5 more times just in case, because it doesn't always get them. And actually, I think this might be the coolest stage now. I like that the sky moves in the background. This is like the only one, I think, where the movement's in the background like that.
Round 3.
It's cooler than Tundra's stage. I like how they saved space on the cart too by just making the last boss a freaking palette swap again. Ah! Can't get the damn fireball off here. There we go. There we go. Now I'm getting them. No, I'm not. Come on, get the damn move off! Son of a bitch. There's nothing more frustrating than sitting there and not pulling moves off. What the hell happened there? That was weird. There we go. This is the better side for me. I think I can more reliably get the moves off. Another terrible music track, by the way. It just sounds like something so not representative of 64-bit hardware. And I know that the Jaguar has 2 32-bit chips, and one of them can be dedicated just for music if you want it to. And I know Doom is an example of a game that couldn't do that, and that's why the Doom version doesn't have music, or the Jaguar version of Doom rather doesn't have music. So maybe this game was taxing enough on the hardware to
Show no mercy.
Yes. Okay, now we gotta not kill him if I remember right.
Senzo wins.
Right? No? No final form? Oh, come on. Another difficulty level? That
Kasumi
is
Ninja.
beyond annoying. I'm not doing this again on another difficulty level. I don't think I have it in me. I'll give it a try. Whatever. Hard and Ninja God. That's so friggin' obnoxious. I don't think I ever beat this on hard as a kid.
Select your fighter.
I guess I had to have, right? Because if I remember the boss being there, I must have done it.
Senzo.
Man, I really didn't have anything to do with my time when I was a kid. I guess I don't have anything to do with my time now if I'm playing this shit now.
Thundera.
On hard.
Entering the combat.
What kind of a nightmare is this gonna be?
Round 1.
Oh. Trying to jump out here. So it's just gonna be like special moves all day. Man, I can't get in a hit. This sucks. Come on. Ah! There we go. Got one move in.
Thundera wins.
This is so frustrating. So to execute a special move, I should elaborate a little bit. I'm sitting here complaining, but just to kind of paint a picture for you, you have to hold in a button and then move the D-pad in directions and stuff, right? So it's like, you know, standard quarter circle forward kind of thing here. And actually for the fireball I keep trying to do, it's a half circle forward. But you hold down a button while you do the motion, and it just feels like it's not doing anything. Like you're doing the motion and your guy's like locked in place because it does that while you hold the
no
button.
mercy.
And then nothing happens, and it's just like so irritating to feel like you're your game is just basically saying, nope.
4, 3.
I only have 1 credit because it's
Select
hard?
your
Seriously?
opponent.
You have 1 continue on hard mode. Ugh.
Thunderer.
We'll try it again.
Entering the combat zone.
I like that it has the digitized sprites. That's that, and like, you know, a couple of the backgrounds are all right for their time.
Round 1.
But for the most part, yeah, this game's a stinker. It's pretty lame. I'll keep it real. I don't think that there's a whole lot of reason for anyone to get a copy of this if you're a Jaguar collector or if you're interested in finding that kind of stuff. I think Jaguar games are getting more and more expensive now as time goes on here. I think more people are starting to become interested in collecting. So it's getting pricey, and honestly, it was... $20 is almost too much for this. The 20 that I paid, even a loose cart. I don't know. I don't think anyone needs to bother tracking this one down. I just think it's bad. It's bad. It's not fun. The controls are what really kill it. You know, it looks okay if you're just gonna watch it, and you know, the sound and the graphics and everything. And it's not too bad. You know, it's kind of the era. I get it. You know, but really the controls are what absolutely kill this thing. It's just so unreliable. Sitting here trying to rock the controller back and forth and get off a fireball and absolutely cannot do it. There we go. I have way more success on this side. And I don't know, like that would almost make the argument, right, that... that would almost make the argument that I have a bad controller, but I know I don't. I know I don't, so... yeah. I don't think I'm going to be able to... oh, I have to select a fighter. Yeah, stick with
Select your opponent.
I'm going to stick with the one I know. I don't have anyone else's moves, so...
Entering the combat zone.
Now, the other game I mentioned, Way of the Warrior, I think if you're a collector and you are interested in 3DO, that is one you should get, and I think that that's one that people unfairly criticize all the time. But this is no Way of the Warrior. That's super annoying, the way she keeps moving. Music. I feel like they were trying to make Danja look sexy in that outfit too, with the cleavage in her pre-fight picture there. And I just don't. I think the outfit's bad. I think they gave her a terrible haircut. Hey, there we go. One around.
Round 3.
That was the other thing too, that a lot of fighting games, or just games in general, in the mid-90s, I guess even today, would do is rely on the sex appeal of female characters, right? And so clearly Danja and Tundra are supposed to be the 2 vixens in this game, and I just think they both look bad. I just don't think either of them look very good.
Danja, wait.
It's a weird way to finish it off. And I'm out of credits. So, yeah. If I want to play on hard, I get to start all over again,
Kasumi
which I'm
Ninja.
not going to do. Anyway, thank you, everybody, for revisiting this one with me. Like I said, I don't think there's a lot going on here. I don't think it's worth picking up. If you're a Jaguar collector, I guess if you're a completionist, there's that aspect of it. But really, at the end of the day, I like having games that are fun. I bought this one just because I hadn't played it in so long. I couldn't remember if it was as bad as I thought or not. And I wanted to see it again for myself rather than relying on other people's videos. And you know what? I probably didn't need to. I wasn't going to know unless I did it for myself, I guess. But yeah, this is just... it's just bad. Don't bother with it. There are plenty of other great games on the Jaguar that are worth tracking down. A lot of people will say the Jaguar doesn't have that many great games, but that's another video entirely where I defend the system and say that there are plenty of good games that make it worth owning and fun, but this is definitely not one. So, Ultra Vortec, I guess, would be the next fighting game that you'd have to look at, and I don't have a video of that one up yet, but I do plan to get that one in at some point here. So maybe stay tuned, and we'll see how that one turns out when I cover it. Thanks so much again for tuning in. We'll catch you next time.
Show no mercy.